Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Super English Talks, the channel where we learn powerful ideas that help you grow in life and, at the same time, improve your English. I'm really happy that you're here with me today. Maybe you're at home relaxing, maybe you're walking outside, or maybe you're just taking a short break. Wherever you are, this episode will give you something useful to think about and also something practical you can try in your own life. Let me start with a question. Have you ever made a plan like this? I will study English every day for 1 hour. But after 3 or 4 days, you stopped? Or maybe you told yourself, I will study until I reach B2 level, but many months passed and you didn't really feel any progress? If that sounds familiar, don't worry. You're not the only one. Many people have the same experience. The problem is not you. The problem might be the strategy you are using. In this episode, we're going to talk about 2 very common life strategies, the time-based strategy and the result-based strategy. And we'll ask a big question. Which one really works better? Should you focus on the time you spend doing something, or should you focus on the results you want to see? This question is important because your answer can completely change the way you approach your goals. And remember, this is not only about studying or productivity. It's about real life. These 2 strategies can affect almost everything: how you study English, how you exercise, how you work, how you build relationships, and even how you chase your dreams. For example, maybe you started a new project and worked on it for many hours, but you felt like you weren't moving forward, like you were just wasting energy. Or maybe you set a big goal, something like writing a book, losing 10 kilos, or getting a job in another country. But the goal felt too far away, and you didn't know how to begin. This is why today's topic is so important. We're going to make everything very clear and very simple. First, we'll explain the 2 strategies. Then we'll look at the way of thinking behind them. We'll see real-life examples, and we'll talk about how successful people, athletes, business people, or language learners like you actually use these ideas. And at the end, we'll try to find a good balance, a way that helps you make progress without burning out, without getting tired, and without giving up halfway. So, take a deep breath and relax. This episode is not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about being consistent. And it's about learning to work smarter, not just harder. While listening, you'll also hear new vocabulary, useful expressions, and questions that make you think. By the end, I hope you feel more motivated, more focused, and more confident in your English journey. Now, let's begin with the main question. What do these 2 strategies actually mean? Before we decide which one is better, we need to understand them clearly. You've probably heard people say things like, just show up every day, or focus on the process, not the outcome. That's one type of strategy. On the other side, maybe you've heard people say, know exactly what you want and go for it. That's another type of strategy. These 2 ways of thinking represent the 2 main strategies we're talking about, the time-based strategy and the result-based strategy. Let's start with the time-based strategy. In this approach, you focus on the amount of time you spend doing something, not on the final result. It's about building a habit, showing up again and again, even if you don't finish something big that day. For example, if you decide to study English for 30 minutes every day, no matter what happens, that's a time-based goal. You're not worrying about finishing a whole grammar book today. You're not worrying about passing an exam tomorrow. Your focus is simply, I will study for 30 minutes today. So, when you use a time-based strategy, your main focus is just being consistent with the amount of time you spend. You're not worrying about what you finish today. You're simply showing up and practicing the habit. Let's look at some examples. Imagine you decide to go to the gym every morning for 1 hour. You don't have a specific goal yet, like losing 5 kilos or running faster, but you know that if you show up every day, little by little, you will become stronger, healthier, and more disciplined. Or think about a writer. A writer might say, I will write for 2 hours every single day. They don't know exactly how many pages they will finish, but they trust the process. The focus is not on the result. The focus is on building a strong routine and training their self-discipline. Over time, the results will appear naturally because the person stayed consistent with their time. Now, let's look at the result-based strategy. This one is different. Instead of looking at how long you work, you look at what you actually complete. Progress is not measured in minutes or hours. It's measured in outcomes. For example, you might say, I want to finish 1 unit of this English course every week. Or maybe, I want to reach B2 level in 6 months. These are clear result-based goals. You are not focused on just showing up. You are focused on reaching a specific point. In fitness, this could sound like, I want to lose 5 kilos in 2 months. Or, I want to run 5 kilometers without stopping. Notice that in this case, you don't care about how many hours you spend at the gym. What matters is whether you achieve the target or not. And for writers, it's the same. It's not about writing for 2 hours. It's about finishing that chapter, publishing that blog post, or submitting that assignment. So, let's stop and compare. What's the real difference between the two? The time-based strategy is all about the time you spend. The result-based strategy is all about what gets done. Both can be very helpful, but both can also cause problems if we use them in the wrong way. Let's look at some everyday situations. Imagine you want to improve your English speaking. With a time-based strategy, you might say, I will practice speaking for 10 minutes every day with a partner. The topic doesn't matter. Mistakes don't matter. Your goal is only to show up and speak for 10 minutes. Over time, this will naturally build your confidence and fluency. But with a result-based strategy, you might say, by the end of this month, I want to speak fluently about 5 different topics. That gives you a clear target. You know exactly what success looks like. Here's another example. Let's say you're working on a big project at your job. With a time-based approach, you might say, I will work on this project for 2 hours every morning. That keeps you moving forward and helps you avoid procrastination. But with a result-based approach, you could say, I want to finish 3 major tasks by Friday. That keeps you focused on outcomes, not just on being busy. Now, let me turn the question to you. Which one do you usually use, time-based or result-based? And why? Do you enjoy routines and structure where you feel good just by showing up? Or do you feel more motivated when you see a clear goal in front of you? Maybe you use both strategies. Maybe you switch between them depending on the situation. Think about your English learning. Do you say, I will study for 20 minutes every day? Or do you say, I want to be able to introduce myself fluently by next month? One of these focuses on time. The other focuses on results. Neither one is wrong. But depending on your personality, your energy, and your lifestyle, one might work better for you right now. The truth is, both strategies can help you grow. They just work in slightly different ways. A time-based strategy builds consistency. And consistency, as you probably know, is often the real key to making progress. A result-based strategy gives you something very powerful, clarity. When you know exactly what you're working toward, you have a clear direction. And clarity often helps you stay motivated. But there's a catch. If you focus only on time, you might end up working without purpose. You're busy, but not really moving forward. And if you focus only on results, you might feel discouraged when things take longer than you expected. That's why in the next part of this episode, we'll go a little deeper. We'll look at the psychology behind these strategies. We'll ask, why do some people do better with a time-based approach while others succeed with a result-based approach? And more importantly, how do our minds, emotions, and habits affect the way we choose? But before we dive in, I want you to pause for just a moment. Think about yourself. Which strategy do you normally use? Do you count the minutes and hours, or do you chase the outcome? And is your current strategy really working for you, or could there be a better way? Hold that thought, because now we're going to explore what's happening inside the mind, the psychology behind each strategy. Now that we understand the difference between time-based and result-based strategies, let's go deeper. Let's talk about the personal side, the psychology. In other words, what's happening in our minds when we choose one strategy over the other? The truth is, everyone is different. Some people are naturally more focused on routines. They like order. They like structure. They feel safe and in control when they know exactly what they need to do every day. These people often prefer a time-based approach because it gives them stability. Their thinking is, if I keep showing up, if I keep putting in the hours, progress will come eventually, even if it's slow. Others, however, are more driven by specific outcomes. They don't get motivated by time. For them, spending 2 hours studying doesn't feel exciting. What excites them is achieving something they can see. They want to feel the progress. They want the result. These are the chasing outcomes type of people. But there's a challenge. If they don't see progress quickly enough, they can feel frustrated, stuck, or even lose motivation completely. So, what's really happening underneath both strategies? That's where psychology comes in. Let's look at a few important ideas: discipline, perfectionism, fear of failure, and mindset. Discipline. Time-based strategies often depend on strong discipline. You have to keep showing up, even on days when you don't feel like it. And that's not easy. Some people are very good at this. They use tools like timers, daily schedules, or habits to keep themselves on track. But for other people, doing something just because it's time feels empty or meaningless. They need more than discipline, they need a reason. They need a visible result to stay motivated. Perfectionism. Now, let's talk about perfectionism, the feeling that everything you do has to be perfect. Many perfectionists actually avoid result-based strategies. Why? Because when the focus is on the final result, they feel pressure. They think, what if I try and it's not good enough? So instead of risking failure, they hide inside routines. They study English every day, but they avoid real conversations. They go to the gym every day, but they avoid measuring progress. They stay busy, but they're not really moving forward. Fear of failure. This connects closely with fear of failure. Sometimes people choose time-based goals because they feel safer. If you say, I studied for 1 hour today, you can feel good, even if you didn't really improve much. It protects you from disappointment. But with result-based goals, there's always risk. If you say, I want to pass this exam in 3 months, and you don't reach it, it hurts. You feel like you failed. That's why many people avoid result-based strategies. They don't want to face that pain. So, as you can see, both strategies are not just about studying, working, or exercising. They're also about how we think, how we feel, and how we deal with discipline, perfectionism, and fear. When you don't reach a goal, you might feel like a failure. And let's be honest, no one enjoys that feeling. But here's the truth. Failure is a natural part of learning. Every single person fails. What really matters is your mindset, how you think about success, growth, and mistakes. If you have a growth mindset, You tell yourself, it's okay to fail as long as I learn and try again. People with this kind of mindset usually do very well with result-based strategies because they're not afraid to aim for big goals. Even if they miss the goal the first time, they see it as feedback, not as the end. On the other hand, people with a fixed mindset, the belief that talent or success is something you're simply born with, often feel stuck. They avoid big goals because deep down they're afraid of proving to themselves that they can't do it. So instead of trying, they hold back. Now let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Have you ever worked hard for hours but felt like you achieved nothing? Maybe you studied English for 3 hours, but the next day you couldn't remember much. Or maybe you wrote pages and pages of notes, but when it came time to speak, you still didn't feel confident. That's a very common feeling, and it often happens when we focus too much on time without checking if we're actually improving. Or maybe you've had the opposite problem. You set a very big result-based goal, something like, I want to be fluent in 3 months. But when it didn't happen, you felt disappointed, maybe even embarrassed, and then you gave up. That's the danger of being too focused on results. You can lose sight of the small wins, the little steps that really matter. You forget that real change takes time. So, what can we learn from this? The truth is, our choice of strategy is not just about goals. It's also about how we feel inside. Do we trust ourselves to show up every day, even when it's hard? Do we allow ourselves to fail and try again? Do we need fast results to stay motivated? Or are we more comfortable with slow and steady progress? The more we understand our own psychology, the easier it becomes to choose a strategy that actually fits us. And here's something important. We don't always have to choose only one. Some days, a time-based strategy is exactly what we need. Just show up, even if it's boring or difficult. Other days, a result-based strategy is better. Look at what you've done and ask, is this actually helping me grow? Neither strategy is perfect. But if we stay curious, stay honest, and most importantly, stay kind to ourselves, we can always find a way forward that feels real, not forced. What do high achievers actually do? Now, let's move on to the big question. What really works in real life? When we look at people who are truly successful, people who reach their goals, build amazing careers, or achieve personal growth, we often wonder, what's their secret? Do they focus on time? Do they focus on results? Or is there something else happening? One thing we notice again and again is this. Successful people are not just talented. They are consistent. That word is very important. Consistency means doing something regularly, even when it's boring, even when you're tired, and even when you don't feel like it. For many high achievers, success doesn't come from one big decision. It comes from small actions, repeated again and again, over time. Let's look at an example. Take one of the most famous athletes in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo. He didn't become one of the best football players just by focusing on results like scoring goals or winning trophies. Yes, results matter. Achievements matter. But behind all of that, there is always a daily process. Take Cristiano Ronaldo again. Of course, he scores goals, wins trophies, and collects awards. But what people don't always see is his routine. He trains every single day. He follows strict schedules. He takes care of both his body and his mind. That's not just talent, that's discipline. And it's also a mix of time-based and result-based strategies. He shows up with consistency, but he also tracks his performance carefully. That balance is what keeps him growing year after year. Or think about J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. When she first started writing, she was a single mother, living in a small apartment and struggling financially. She didn't become a successful writer overnight. She wrote in cafes while her baby slept beside her. She didn't wait for the perfect time. She made the time. She had a result-based goal to finish her book. But her real success came from showing up every day and writing, no matter how small the progress was. That's the power of commitment to the process, not just dreaming about the result. Entrepreneurs also give us powerful examples. Take Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and SpaceX. He is known for setting very ambitious, result-based goals, like building electric cars that change the industry or sending rockets into space. But he also works extremely long hours, sometimes more than 80 or 90 hours a week. That's a time-based strategy. What's interesting is that he combines this with accountability. He shares his goals publicly. By telling the world what he wants to achieve, he creates pressure to follow through. It's not just about dreaming big. It's about being responsible for your actions and making sure you actually do the work. And in the world of language learning, we see the same thing. The most successful learners don't suddenly study for 8 hours in one weekend and then quit. Instead, they practice a little bit every day. They don't just say, "I want to reach B2 level," and stop there. They break that big goal into small habits. Reading one article a day, writing a short paragraph, listening to podcasts like this one, and speaking with a partner once or twice a week. That's consistency. And it works. So, what do these stories teach us? They show us that results don't come from effort alone. They come from focused effort over time. People who succeed don't just work hard. They work with intention. They build systems. They manage their time. And they always stay connected to their bigger goals. There's another important lesson here. Successful people learn to trust the process. They don't expect instant results. They understand that improvement takes time. Think about a musician learning a new song. If the musician only focuses on playing the song perfectly from day one, they'll feel stressed and disappointed. But if they focus on practicing slowly, carefully, and consistently, the perfect performance will come naturally over time. It's the same with learning English or with anything else in life. And finally, let's not forget about the power of accountability. When people know what they want, they often share it with a coach, a teacher, a friend, or even with the world. That creates healthy pressure. It's easy to quit when no one knows your goals. But when someone is watching, supporting, or waiting for you to show up, it becomes harder to give up. Accountability pushes you to stay committed. So, what strategy do successful people really use? The answer is simple: both. They use time-based habits to build a structure and rhythm in their lives. And they use result-based goals to stay focused and motivated. They understand that showing up every day is important, but they also make sure their actions are leading to real progress. Successful people don't just keep themselves busy. They keep moving forward. And you can do the same. Ask yourself, what small action can I take today that will bring me closer to my goal? What result am I working toward? And how will I know if I'm making progress? You don't need to be a superstar. You don't need to be perfect. All you need is to start and then keep going. That's what real success is made of: simple steps, repeated again and again. In the next section, we're going to talk about what happens when you rely too much on only one strategy. Because if you focus only on time or only on results, it can sometimes lead to frustration, exhaustion, or even giving up completely. So stay with me, we're now getting to the heart of it. The hidden problem with using only one strategy. We've already seen that both time-based and result-based strategies can help us grow. But now let's look at the other side, the side people don't always talk about. The truth is, if you use only one strategy and never balance it with the other, it can actually hold you back. Even if you're trying hard. Even if your intentions are good. Let's start with the time-based trap. This trap happens when you only focus on showing up and putting in the hours, but you never stop to check if you're really improving. Imagine this. You study English for 30 minutes every single day. That feels good. You're proud of yourself. You're sticking to your routine. But after weeks, even months, your speaking still feels weak. Your listening skills don't really improve. Why does this happen? The problem is that time alone doesn't guarantee progress. You can sit at a desk for hours, reading grammar rules, but still feel nervous in a real conversation. You might watch English videos every day, but if you never practice speaking, your fluency won't grow. That's the trap. You feel busy, you feel productive, but deep inside, you know something isn't working. This can lead to frustration. You might even think, I'm doing everything right. Why am I not getting better? That thought creates self-doubt. You begin to wonder, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm just bad at languages. But here's the truth. The problem is not you. The problem is the strategy. When you focus only on time, you may forget to ask, are my methods actually helping me improve? Now, let's look at the result-based trap. This one is tricky too. With a result-based mindset, you often set big, exciting goals. I want to speak English like a native. Or, I want to get a job in an international company by the end of this year. These goals sound amazing. They inspire us. But they can also feel very far away, almost impossible. When you think too much about how far you are from your dream, you can feel stuck. Another problem is that when we focus only on results, we often feel like we need to be perfect before we even begin. We wait for the right moment. We say things like, I'll start speaking English when I'm more fluent. Or, I'll apply for that job when I feel more confident. But here's the reality. That perfect day never comes. And because we're waiting, we don't start. Or maybe we start, but we stop quickly when progress feels too slow. This is how perfectionism can slowly kill motivation. So let me ask you a personal question and take a moment to think about it honestly. Do you sometimes set goals that sound great, but never take the first step? Are you waiting for some magical moment when you'll finally feel ready? If that sounds like you, remember this. You don't need to wait for confidence to begin. Confidence grows from action, not from waiting. That's the danger of focusing only on the end result. You forget that every big achievement always starts with one small, often imperfect, step. Both of these traps, time only and result only, can also lead to something much deeper, burnout. Burnout is that heavy feeling when you're tired, discouraged, and running on empty. You're still working, still trying, but your energy is low and your motivation has disappeared. It feels like nothing is working anymore, and a part of you just wants to give up. Maybe you've been studying for months, but don't see real change. Or maybe you've been chasing a dream for so long that it now feels impossibly far away. That's what burnout does. It makes even the things you care about feel pointless. And here's the hardest part. When you fall into one of these traps, it often feels very lonely. To the outside world, it might look like you're doing great. People see you studying, showing up, working hard. But inside, you know the truth, you're struggling. You start losing confidence. You compare yourself to others and slowly, without even noticing, you stop believing in yourself. That's why it's so important to be honest with yourself. If you're following a time-based plan, ask, am I actually growing or am I just keeping busy? If you're chasing only a big result, ask, am I doing the work even when it's not exciting or glamorous? The goal isn't to lock yourself into one strategy forever. The real goal is to find balance, to use time and results together so they support each other. Think of it like this. Time-based strategy is your engine. It keeps you moving forward, step by step. Result-based strategy is your compass. It shows you where you're going and keeps you on track. Without the engine, you never move. Without the compass, you just wander around. You need both. So if you've been feeling stuck, tired, or even close to giving up, maybe the problem isn't your goal. Maybe it's simply your approach. And the good news? You can always change it. You don't have to keep using a strategy that isn't working. You can adjust. You can restart. You can try again, smarter this time, not harder. And that brings us to the next part, the balanced approach. A balanced approach, the real secret. Now let's talk about something very important, the real secret to lasting success that many people overlook. We've already looked at time-based strategies. We've looked at result-based strategies. But here's the truth. You don't have to choose one or the other. In fact, the most effective strategy is almost always a mix of both. Let's make this simple. Think about language learning. If you decide to study English for 30 minutes every day, that's a time-based approach. It builds discipline, routine, and the habit of showing up. But if all you ever do is study grammar rules or passively watch videos, you might not actually improve in real conversations. Now, imagine you add something else. You record yourself speaking once a week and keep those recordings. That's a result-based approach. You're not just spending time, you're measuring what you can actually do with your English. You can look back at your recordings after a month or two and hear the progress for yourself. This combination, showing up every day and tracking what matters, is what I call a balanced approach. And it works. Why? Because it gives you the best of both worlds. Time-based strategies build consistency. Result-based strategies give you direction. Together, they make sure your effort actually turns into growth. Let's look at another example, going to the gym. Imagine someone who works out for 1 hour every day. That's great discipline. They're consistent. But if they always do the exact same exercises, never increase their weights, and never change their routine, they'll stay stuck in the same place. They're putting in the hours, but not seeing results. Now, imagine someone else who goes to the gym 3 times a week. They track how much weight they lift, how many reps they do, and they challenge themselves to improve little by little. That's a result-based approach. But if they only go once every few weeks, the progress disappears. The real progress comes from combining the two. Consistency in showing up, time-based, and improvement in performance, result-based. That's the balance. Now, imagine another type of person. They only go to the gym when they feel motivated or when they have a big goal, like losing 5 kilos. At first, they're super excited. They push hard for 2 weeks, maybe even go every single day. But then, the motivation fades. They feel tired, burned out, or disappointed because the results didn't come fast enough. And so, they stop completely. This is the danger of chasing only results. It doesn't last. The truth is, neither method, time-based alone or result-based alone, is perfect. But when you combine them, something powerful happens. A steady routine gives you stability, and clear progress markers give you direction. Together, they create a system that actually works. Let's use a writing example. Imagine you want to write a book. If you say, I'll write for 2 hours every Saturday, that's a good start. But if you also set a goal to finish 1 chapter every month, now you have both pieces. the time commitment, and the result to guide your energy. You're not just busy, you're productive. This approach also helps you fight perfectionism. Many learners delay action because they don't feel ready yet. They want the perfect sentence, the perfect accent, the perfect plan. But if you create a system like 30 minutes of speaking practice every day and a small weekly result, such as recording a 2-minute story, you'll build momentum. You won't be waiting for perfection. You'll be focusing on progress. And progress is what leads to real growth. Think of it this way. Goals are destinations, but systems are the paths that take you there. Take brushing your teeth as an example. You don't wake up every morning asking, "Am I motivated to brush my teeth today?" You just do it because it's part of your system. That same idea can be applied to learning English, improving your fitness, or even building a business. Systems take the pressure off motivation. They help you keep moving forward, even on days when you don't feel like it. So, what can this look like in real life? Let's say you're an English learner. You decide to practice speaking for 20 minutes every day. That's your time-based routine. Then, you also set a weekly result. For example, this week, I'll record myself explaining what I did today, or I'll describe a movie I watched. That way, you're not only practicing regularly, but you also have something concrete to measure. You can go back, listen to your recordings, and actually hear your improvement. You'll notice small but powerful changes. Last month, I couldn't say this. Now I can. That's real progress. This balanced approach gives you a sense of control. You don't have to guess if you're improving. You'll see it, hear it, and feel it. And instead of asking yourself, should I focus on time or results, you can ask a much better question. How can I use both together to work for me? What would it look like for you to create a small daily routine and a simple weekly result? You don't have to be extreme. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to build a rhythm that keeps you moving forward while showing you how far you've already come. And here's the best part. This balanced method works everywhere. In language learning, in fitness, in writing, in relationships, even in business. The key is consistency with purpose and effort with direction. That's how real change happens. So, if you've been stuck, either doing a lot of work with no clear results, or waiting for motivation to strike before you begin, maybe it's time to rethink your strategy. You don't need to choose only one. You can build your own system, one that mixes showing up regularly with tracking your growth along the way. And always remember, every expert you admire was once a beginner. They weren't perfect. They just kept showing up, kept learning, and kept improving little by little. You can do the same. You know, when we talk about strategies like time-based or result-based, this is not just theory for me. I've lived it. I've tried both, I've failed with both, and I've also had a few quiet little wins that taught me lessons I'll never forget. Let me share a personal story with you. A couple of years ago, I decided to learn video editing. Not because of work. Not because I wanted to make money. Simply because I was curious. I wanted to make better content for Super English Talks and also challenge myself to learn something new. At first, I took a very result-based approach. I told myself, I'll finish one full YouTube video every week, no matter what. I thought this clear result would push me to stay motivated. And in the beginning, it worked. I pushed hard. I stayed up late. I obsessed over details, trying to make each video perfect. But after a few weeks, I hit a wall. I was exhausted. Not just tired physically, but mentally too. I was chasing results, but I wasn't enjoying the process anymore. And here's the hard part. I started to believe my value depended on whether I had something to show at the end of the week. If I missed a week, I felt like a failure. That's not healthy. So, I changed my strategy. I switched to a time-based approach. I told myself, okay, I'll just edit for 30 minutes a day. No pressure to finish. Just show up. And honestly, at first it felt so much better.
No deadlines.
No stress. Just me and the editing software. But after a few weeks, I noticed something else. Yes, I was showing up. Yes, I was spending time. But I wasn't really improving. I was going through the motions. I wasn't tracking what I learned. I wasn't pushing myself to grow. It felt safe, but it wasn't progress. That's when I realized the truth. I needed both time and results. Not one or the other, both. So I built a simple system for myself. I kept the 30 minutes a day. That was my time-based habit. But I also added small results to aim for. I told myself, learn one new editing skill each week. Finish a draft version by Friday. Review your own video on Sunday and look for ways to improve. Slowly, things started to change. My skills improved. My videos got better. And most importantly, my mindset shifted. I wasn't burning out anymore because I wasn't chasing perfection. And I didn't feel lost because I was tracking my progress. It wasn't fast. It wasn't perfect. But it was sustainable. And it worked. Here's the funny thing. Some of the videos I worked hardest on, the ones I felt most proud of, didn't get many views. Nobody else really noticed. But I did. I saw the growth. I felt the progress. And that quiet, personal victory felt amazing. So let me ask you, what's one small win you're proud of? Maybe it's something nobody else noticed. Maybe you didn't even tell anyone about it. But you know you did it. Maybe you kept a habit for a week. Maybe you said something in English you never dared to say before. Maybe you finally opened that book, wrote that email, or finished that exercise. Whatever it is, that's real progress. Don't wait for someone else to celebrate you. Celebrate yourself. Because real growth isn't always loud. It isn't always big. Most of the time, it's quiet, steady, and deeply personal. And it belongs to you. Now, let's move to the most important part. What you can do today. You've heard the ideas. You've heard the stories. But real change doesn't happen by listening. Real change begins with action. Small, simple action. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Start now, start small, and keep going. You're already ready enough. The most important thing is not to wait for the perfect time. It's simply to begin. And to help you begin, let me share a few simple, practical steps you can start using today. Step 1. Set a time-based habit. Choose something you want to improve, maybe speaking English, reading more, or learning a new skill, and give it a small, consistent space in your daily routine. Keep it short. Even 15 minutes is enough. Not an hour, not a whole evening, just 15 minutes. You could speak in English while walking, read one page of a book, or review 5 new vocabulary words. It doesn't matter how small it feels. What matters is that it's daily, consistent, and so easy that you can do it even on a busy day. You don't need to do more. Just keep showing up. Step 2. Add a result-based check-in. Once a week, maybe on Sunday evening or Monday morning. Ask yourself a simple question. What progress did I make this week? You can also set one small result for the week, like, I'll write one short story, or I'll record one 2-minute voice message in English. This weekly check-in is powerful. It keeps you honest but gentle. It helps you feel proud of what you've done and shows you where you can improve. You're not judging yourself, you're just noticing, and that awareness is what creates growth. Step 3. Use a system, not just goals. Instead of saying, I want to improve my speaking, build a simple system you can follow. For example, every day talk for 10 minutes. Once a week, record yourself and listen back. Once a month, speak to one new person in English. That's a system. And systems are stronger than goals. Goals tell you where you want to go. Systems give you the road to get there. The best part? Systems make progress automatic. You don't have to think, am I motivated today? You just follow the path you've built. Step 4. Celebrate small wins, even the invisible ones. Maybe you finally understood a podcast without subtitles. Maybe you spoke up in a meeting. Maybe you stayed calm even when you didn't know a word. These are huge wins, even if nobody else sees them. So write them down. Acknowledge them. Tell yourself, well done. Because these small victories are proof you're growing. Step 5. Trust yourself. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need endless motivation. What you need is to believe that your small actions matter, because they do. Every time you show up, every time you try again, you are building something. You are becoming someone who doesn't quit. And that's not just a learning skill. That's a life skill. So here's your challenge for today. Pick one time-based habit and one result-based goal. Write them down. Keep them simple. Maybe it's 10 minutes of English listening each day and one short paragraph every Friday. That's it. Small, doable, consistent. Remember, real change doesn't come from perfection. It comes from persistence. You don't have to be fast, just keep going. You don't have to be perfect, just begin. And you don't have to be anyone else, just a better version of you than yesterday. Before we finish today's episode, let's come back to the main idea one last time. Success doesn't come from focusing only on time or only on results. It comes from finding a healthy balance between both. When you show up every day, even for a short time, you create strong habits. When you check in regularly, you stay motivated and proud. And when you combine the two, you build a system that keeps you moving forward, not just in English, but in every area of life. So don't wait. Begin today. Small steps, steady progress, balanced growth. That's the secret. Your job, your health, your relationships, your dreams, all of these matter. And before we finish today, I want to leave you with a few important questions. These questions are for you, not for anyone else. So take a moment and be honest with yourself. Are you waiting to feel ready before you start something? Maybe you're waiting to feel more confident before speaking English. Maybe you're waiting to have more time before working on your goal. But the truth is, you may never feel fully ready. The best time to begin is now. You don't need perfect confidence. You don't need the perfect situation. You just need to take one step, one action, one try. That's how everything begins. Can you commit to just 10 minutes a day? You don't need to change your whole life in one day. You just need to dedicate 10 focused minutes to something that matters to you. Maybe it's listening to English, reading a page, writing a few sentences, or having a short conversation. At first, it may feel like it's not enough. But over time, these small actions add up. And one day, you'll look back and realize just how far you've come. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are right on time. And the fact that you are listening to this podcast today shows something important. You care, you want to grow, and you are ready to take steps, even small ones. That's something to be proud of. So here's your simple action for today. Choose one small habit to start. Just 10 minutes. And choose one small result to check in with at the end of the week. Write them down. Put them somewhere you'll see them. And then begin. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Begin today.
Right now.
Thank you for spending this time with me here on Super English Talks. If this episode helped you, please subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Share this episode with a friend who might need it. And most importantly, reflect on your own journey. You are learning. You are growing. You are moving forward. Even if the steps are small, remember this. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to begin.